So we're going to play a game of prediction. I am filming this on Friday. It is 7:22 p.m. And I'm going to say right now that Joe Biden will pick Kamala Harris to be his running mate. Okay? Kamala Harris is a woman. Joe Biden wants to have a female vice president. She's also a person of color, which also is what Joe Biden wanted. They had a little bit of a rocky relationship, but I think that will be the best candidate to pick for Joe Biden. Well, that Dockery Docket guy, he sure is smart. Yeah, I mean, he hit it right on the head on who you're going to pick as your VP. Isn't that incredible, Joe? What? What are you talking about? Are you a lion, dog-faced pony soldier, or are you a junkie? I haven't picked a VP yet. Joe, yes you did. You picked Kamala Harris, remember? Oh, that's right, Camilla. What a great lady. She's awesome. I really love her. Her hair smelled the best. No, Joe. Kamala. Cameo? Oh, mayo sounds good. Hey, Jill, can you put mayo on my sandwich? Oh, I love mayo. Okay, Joe, listen. I'm trying to help you, okay? Kamala. Camels? What does that have to do with anything? Okay, Joe, listen. I'm really trying hard to help you out. All that I was trying to say was that your vice president's name is Kamala Harris, and that the Dockery Docket predicted that you were going to pick her weeks ago. And please, learn how to say her name right. Okay, Joe? Joe. Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's Kyle Dockery with the Dockery Docket. We are here with our very 38th episode of the Dockery Docket. I'm excited to be here, and I hope that you are excited to be here as well. So, the day has finally come. Well, I mean, it actually happened a long time ago, but the day has finally come that Joe Biden has picked his vice presidential nominee. That's right, folks. I predicted this all the way back in April. But before we dive into that, I want to tell you a little story to tell you just how crazy all this is, and how crazy it is for Joe Biden to pick Kamala Harris, and for Kamala Harris to say yes to the VP job. So let's imagine there's a woman whose name is Rebecca, because that's just the name I decided to pick right off the top of my head, and she works at this big old grand corporation, and she loves her job, but there's one problem. It's her boss. He is super old and he keeps making racist comments to different people around the office. And whenever Rebecca brings her daughter into work with her, he sniffs her hair and tells her very weird stories about people touching his leg hair and stuff. Rebecca gets angry about all these different situations and attacks him for his racist comments that he has said in the past, and claims that she believes all the women that said the boss sexually assaulted them. They get into this big old argument, and soon Rebecca decides that it is time for her to leave the company. So she quits. Then months later, the creepy old boss calls her and says, "Hey, how would you like to work with me and talk to me every single day and be my right-hand man?" Well, woman in this point. And Rebecca says, "Heck yeah, I will do it." Even though she criticized him for being a racist, for believing that he sexually assaulted women, and now they are best of buddies. All that stuff in the past is just swept right underneath the rug. This is exactly what is happening with Kamala Harris and Joe Biden, as they were very, very bitter enemies in the primaries, and they frankly hated each other. I mean, one of the reasons that Kamala Harris started to rise so high in the polls of the Democratic primary was because at the very first debate, she attacked Joe Biden for working with segregationists, and Joe Biden didn't support busing that was used to desegregate different schools across California and other states as well, which Kamala Harris was bused to school every day. She was a part of this program of trying to desegregate schools. She basically called him a racist, even though in the clip she said, "I don't think you're racist," and then went on to talk about how his actions were racist and hurtful. At one point, before Joe Biden even started his campaign. He was accused of sexual assault by Tara Reade, which we talked about in the Dockery Docket episode 25. At first, Kamala Harris believed the women that accused Joe Biden. As she said, "I believe them, and I respect them for being able to tell their story and having the courage to do it." She then, of course, changed her mind, which is a normal theme for Kamala Harris, but we'll talk about that later, and said that the allegations were not credible. However, the point still stands. She called him a racist. She said that he sexually assaulted women. But apparently, these are all swept right under the rug because Kamala Harris could or wants to be the second most powerful person in the United States. So of course she will say yes to the job offer. So it seems to me that the relationship between these two people have been strained over the campaign. And there are also political reasons on why I think that this pick for Joe Biden was a very, very big mistake and a very, very bad idea. A political reason is that the vice presidential pick is supposed to help you in a different state, or the state that the vice president is from. For example, in the 1960 election, JFK picked Lyndon B. Johnson from Texas to be his VP. A lot of people were shocked about this, but Kennedy needed the Southern vote, and especially the state of Texas, to win the election. And he did win Texas, which gave him the election. It gave Kennedy the election over Nixon. For this situation, Kamala Harris cannot help Joe Biden in any state because she is from California. She was a attorney general there, and she was also a senator there, which has been a Democratic state since George H.W. Bush back in 1988. So yeah, Joe doesn't need any help in California unless something absolutely crazy happens. Anyway, Harris can help Joe gain some more excitement, which was lacking a lot with the Joe Biden campaign. The campaign is basically a big old snore fest, but other than that, there really isn't anything else. Biden is pretty locked and loaded when it comes to the African American vote, as we found out in South Carolina, as before South Carolina, Joe Biden's campaign was really struggling in the primaries. And then once he reached South Carolina, which has a bigger population of African Americans, Joe Biden came back and won South Carolina, and that is what started this movement of voting for Joe Biden and him ending up winning the Democratic nomination. Another reason on why I think that this pick for Joe Biden is bad is that Kamala Harris comes with a lot of baggage, as she is most famous for being the Attorney General for the state of California, which we already talked about. That's right. She was a cop, and is now trying to be the vice president for the party that wants to defund the police. Isn't that a little bit strange? Anyway, here is a story of her being the AG of California, as in 2014, a California judge ordered that all non-violent second strike offenders be eligible for parole after serving half their sentence. Kamala Harris rejected this because these criminals were working for her, as most of these prisoners now worked as groundkeepers, janitors, and in prison kitchens, with wages that range from 8 cents to 37 cents per hour. Lawyers for the Attorney General Kamala Harris have argued in court that if forced to release these inmates early, prisons would lose an important labor pool. So she didn't want to release them, because if she did, then she would lose valuable workers. And they were paid, but it still seemed like slavery to me. I personally think it does. And she also denied a DNA test that could have freed an African-American man from death row, as there was a case that was filled with racism and Kamala Harris did absolutely nothing, and then changed her opinion about having a DNA test after the media attacked her. Along with this, Kamala Harris during the campaign went on one of these radio shows and claimed that she smoked weed in college and laughed about it. She also said that she listened to Tupac and Snoop Dogg, which their music wasn't even out at the time when she was in college, so maybe she was lying about it altogether. But if this were true, then she was doing the exact crime that she was locking up people for, as during her time as Attorney General, Harris oversaw more than 1,900 marijuana convictions in San Francisco. Previously unreported records from the DA's office show her prosecutors appear to have convicted people on marijuana charges at a higher rate than under her predecessor based on data about marijuana arrests in the city. So she arrested people for the same crimes that she did. And so as we know with politics, everything that you say usually comes out because we got this grand old thing called the internet. And so all this stuff was released and people were sharing it all around and people were talking about it. And thankfully, it came up in one of the Democratic debates when Tulsi Gabbard brought it up and absolutely mopped the floor with Kamala Harris. And after that, Kamala could not really fight back, and people saw her true colors, and this led to her downfall. And eventually, she dropped out from the Democratic nomination altogether, and this led to her starting to fight for the vice presidency, because it would be easier for her to become president as the vice president, because Biden might not make it a full term. Now, before I get into this, I just want to say that I don't wish any ill will on Joe Biden. I hope that if he does become president, which I hope he doesn't, but if he does, that he will live long and prosper, because I don't want a president to die in office. I don't think that that would be a very good thing for either party. It would be sad, and it would be very demoralizing for the country. So I'm not saying that Joe Biden is going to die. I don't want people to say that. But what might happen is that with his decline in cognitivity, we may see Kamala Harris step in his place. And this is becoming more obvious day after day, as it seems that Joe Biden is deteriorating very, very fast. And that would mean that Kamala Harris would be the president. Actually, according to a new poll, 59% of Americans say that it is likely Joe Biden's vice president will be president, meaning that Joe Biden will more than likely step down and Kamala Harris will take over. Now, this would be okay if Kamala Harris wasn't a extreme left-wing radical. Now, I know what you're saying. Kyle, this isn't true. I just saw an article from the New York Times or from some other place that said Kamala Harris was a pragmatic moderate. Ha! That's a good one. Kamala Harris is right up there with the rest of the radical left. She is pro-late-term abortion. She wants to criminalize people that deny science, like science deniers, people who say that global warming isn't a real thing. She wants to give taxpayer-funded health care to illegal immigrants. She also proposed banning plastic straws, and she wants everyone to use paper straws. Kamala has also been known as a flip-flopper, as she wanted Medicare for all like Bernie until it wasn't popular enough, and then she just wanted to get rid of private insurance 100%, which is a absolutely horrible idea, as thousands to millions of Americans are on private insurance right now. It was also interesting because whenever she did any of these live town halls, people would ask her about some different policy, and she'd be like, oh yeah, we'll have to look into that. The person in the town hall could say, do you think that we should kill all cows so then they don't produce methane so then we can stop climate change? And Kamala Harris would be like, well, we're just gonna have to look into that. Like, are you crazy? No, we're not gonna do that, you silly Billy. So anyway, it is just all very ridiculous, and she is not a moderate at all. And if Joe Biden were to drop, then we would see her follow along with the squad, AOC +3, and the country would look truly different than what it is today. The Trump campaign understands this whole situation, and this is why Donald Trump has decided to attack Kamala Harris, because she is a radical, and Trump knows that Joe Biden is barely there, so he almost has to act like Kamala Harris is the person that he is facing in the general election, not Joe Biden. So Donald Trump just does his normal Donald Trump thing and attacked Kamala Harris by saying, and now you have a sort of a mad woman, I call her, because she was so angry and such hatred with Brett Kavanaugh, Justice Brett Kavanaugh. I mean, I've never seen anything like it. She was the angriest of the group, and they were all angry. These are seriously ill people. Now, to me, I think that this is correct, as Kamala Harris was very mad and very mean when she was questioning Brett Kavanaugh, but apparently, these attacks are both racist and sexist, because Kamala Harris is a woman of color, so you can't say anything negative about her. Trump just has to say that she is perfect, even though she is not. And along with this, the media continue to act like Donald Trump has never called anyone a nickname or a name before. And madwoman is such a terrible thing to ever say. So let's take a little journey down memory lane and look at some of the names that Donald Trump has called people in the past, shall we? He has called Kamala Harris's running mate Joe Biden Crazy Joe, Sleepy Joe, and Creepy Joe. He called Jeb Bush low energy. He called Ted Cruz Lion Ted. He also called the former presidential nominee Hillary Clinton crazy and Crooked Hillary. This idea that Trump has only called Kamala Harris crazy or a nickname is not true, because Trump has done this with a lot of people. Okay, there's a whole list on Wikipedia of all the people that he has called crazy, dumb, stupid, sleepy. You know, Donald Trump has all of these different, mean things that he says to people, and they're mostly the same. It's crazy, or he rhymes something with their name. He called Elizabeth Warren Pocahontas for X amount of years, and he still does. He still calls Elizabeth Warren Pocahontas. So I don't want to hear any of this, oh, well, he's calling her names. Yes, he calls everyone names. He's done it for a long time. And now the only real issue that has come up with this Donald Trump versus Kamala Harris is that Donald Trump has questioned if Kamala Harris is able to run for vice president or for president at all, because she wasn't born in America. And for Trump, this is wrong, because we know that Kamala Harris was born in California. And Donald Trump did say in the speech that he hoped that the DNC went through it. And I really do think that the DNC did go through it and said, okay, we know that she can run for president, and we know that she can be vice president because she was born in California. Donald Trump has famously done this with former President Barack Obama, saying that he was from Kenya, and with Ted Cruz, who said that he was from Canada, which Ted Cruz was actually born in Canada, but both of his parents were American citizens, so technically he is an American citizen, and each time I think it is a mistake, no matter what or who it is. And while we can attack Kamala Harris for her political beliefs, we don't need to go that far and shoot ourselves in the foot like Trump did, because a lot of people are claiming that this is a racist attack. And I mean, it kind of is, if you think about it. You're saying that, oh, someone has a different skin color, they must be from somewhere else. Now, no matter what happens, we know that this is a historical moment in our country, as according to the New York Times, it has been 36 years since a man and woman ran together on a Democratic ticket. Isn't that incredible? Can you believe that Hillary Clinton, who is a woman, and Tim Kaine, who is a man, ran for president 36 years ago? I mean, I thought it was the last election, but I guess I must have hallucinated. Well, that's at least what Hillary Clinton said on Twitter, and it was absolutely hilarious. This is, of course, not true, and the New York Times had to issue a correction, as they wrote, "Correction, an earlier version of this column incorrectly said that it has been 36 years since a man and a woman ran together on a Democratic ticket. It has been that long since a man chose a woman to run as his vice president." Oh, okay, that makes more sense. Hold on, wait a minute, what about Sarah Palin and John McCain? So they had to make another correction and finally say that this is the first time in 36 years that a Democratic man picked a female to be a vice president nominee on the Democratic ticket. So, yeah. And this is going back to Walter Mondale and Geraldine Ferrero, who were absolutely slapped by Reagan in a 49-state landslide. So let's hope that that happens this time around with Donald Trump and Mike Pence versus Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. So we will just have to wait and see what all happens with this Joe Biden and Kamala Harris nonsense that is going on, as the Democrats are actually having their convention. It started yesterday, and we will probably talk about that next week. And I mean, I know that none of you are going to watch it, because basically what it's going to be is a giant Zoom call, which is just so exciting. It's going to be the best convention ever. But we'll just have to wait and see, and we'll talk about it next week. But until then, we will be back here next Tuesday at noonish for another episode of the Dockery Docket. And until then, like my mom always says, be good, be kind, be loving. Goodbye.